Hi, my name's Martin. Today I'm going to show you how to make a few hacks to the excellent Friday pattern company Beachcomber Jacket. It's a really great design and I've already made one, but in this video I'm going to show you how to make a little more luxurious version, perhaps unique. The green one I already made was in waxed cotton with bellows pockets, but this time I wanted to incorporate handwarmer pockets and some more top stitching as well. Waxed cotton is quite thin and of course it's impossible to stick interface into, so really the welted pockets be quite difficult for me. Also, I really like the sort of big bellows pockets, but I wanted to try the handwarmer pockets underneath as well. I live in England, so I'm putting a nice thermal lining in. The original pattern doesn't offer internal pockets at all, so I'm going to put a couple of those in, one zipped one and one regular one inside. And to get that slightly more luxurious look, I'm going to use some corduroy to trim the collar, hem facings, pocket flaps and cuffs. Talking about the cuffs, I'm not elasticating them. I'm going to make some velcro straps to tighten them when I want to. I'm going to put a corduroy lining inside as well. Finally, I'll be doing some top stitching, both to reinforce the seams and to make it look nice, and I'll pop in a hanging loop for convenience. So there's quite a lot going on that's different to the original pattern. I've had to do some changes to the original pattern. I've shortened the arms by 2 centimetres using the lines on the pattern. To allow me to have the cuffs with the waxed cotton on the outside and corduroy on the inside, I folded the original pattern piece in half and added an extra 10mm seam allowance. This will allow me to join the pieces with the same seam allowance as anywhere else on the pattern. If you use inches, 10mm is 3/8 of an inch. For any other measurement I'm talking about, I'm sure there's a converter somewhere. I'm not a fan of imperial measurements. I've drawn pattern pieces for the bellows pocket, pocket liner, pocket flap and cuff flaps, which I will link below. Hopefully, by the time you see this, I'll have worked out how to prepare them for A4 printers. Whether I have or not, there's an excellent bellows pocket tutorial by Mayra on So Easy, and I'll link that below. You can download a bellows pattern from there and send her a tip for her trouble. I bought an old HP design jet for £100, so I'm lucky enough to be able to print out on A0. If you have the space, and it's a lot of space, this is a real time saver. So the first thing we're going to do is to make the bellows pockets. Pockets usually the first things you do, aren't they? So let's crack on with that. One thing to remember though with waxed cotton is that you don't iron it, you don't press it, you just fold it in place. And so I'm going to be able to do that. And if I want to, I can go over with a roller on the top to fix those folds in place. Something else just while I remember is when you put these pockets on, you need to remember that at the bottom of the coat there's some front hem facings, and these need to be high enough to clear that facing. I'll come back to that when I fix them on. But for now, let's think about putting these folds in place. I'm adding little lines here at 10, 35 and 60mm. Just line that up properly. And I'm going to do that on all 3 sides. So I'll be back when I've done those. Right, so here is a marked out pocket. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the top in for a start, and then I'm going to kind of fold it like this all the way around, so that'll give us the bellows effect. But we'll start off just by folding on the 10mm mark just here, and then again on the 35mm mark. Just have a quick check to make sure I've got that right, which I have, and so then I can roll it down. So if you're making this out of a different fabric, you'd be pressing it. This is waxed cotton, so I can't do that. Here's my next fold at the 60mm line, so I'll have a quick check. Yep, all good there. So I'll roll that down, and then while I'm here, I'll roll on the 35mm line. And finally, back on the 10, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and go in the rest of the pocket. The shape of the pocket. Okay. So the next thing to do is going to be to stitch these corners together. Stitch down here with my 10mm seam allowance. So I'm going to go down here, then across there. I'm going to do that on both sides. So just line it up. Okay, so let's go back a couple of stitches. Okay, so that one's done. I'm not going to film doing the other one, but I'll show you the other one now. Thing to do is take my scissors and just snip up towards the stitches there. Now that is not going to work with those scissors because it's wax cotton, so I have to go out with the big ones. Okay, so we do that on both the corners. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing there. You can't see the stitch because I can barely see it, but there we go. Okay. So then I can turn the corners out. They look quite organised and neat there. Okay, so I'll do that on both corners. That's my corners formed. So next thing, I need to organise the material so that I can start to put some stitching in to hold it in place. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off, we're going to stitch down the inside seam here, all the way around. Okay, three separate operations, go all the way around. So that's going to start to hold the pocket flat. So I'll just get on with that. Okay, so I'll turn it inside out. Now I'm going to stitch as close to the edge as I possibly can. Okay, so okay, so I don't know how well that's going to come out, but I've stitched all the way along here, so that's going to hold things nice and neatly together when the pocket starts to take shape. I'm going to go and do the other two sides, and I'll come back when I've done that. Now, having stitched along the inside edge just here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch along these three edges. I've put top stitch thread on for this, and I've changed the stitch length to 4.5mm. So I'm going to get on with that. I'll do this one on the machine, and then I'll do the next one, and we'll be good. So all I'm going for is sort of, I don't know, 3 or 4mm stitching on the edge here, because a little bit noisy for a start because it's going through all those layers at the top where I'd put the overlap for the top of the pocket. So go. One more, there we go. Obviously being careful not to catch any of the other bits of material in here. Just 2 pieces I want, or the folded piece I want. Luckily my machine, which is a Janome, will stop with the needle down, and that makes my life a lot easier. As opposed to that, where it's got stuck. So I'm just going to stop the video, sort that out, and I'll be back with you in a minute. So now I need to put the back onto my pocket. On the basis that nobody's perfect, I've actually had to remeasure this. I found that it's 20 centimeters that way, 21 that way, and so I've cut myself a new back that's 20 by 21, and I actually gave it a bit of an overlap as well, so it's going to look nice and tidy from the inside of the pocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin, or in my case clip, because you can't pin wax. So I'm going to clip right sides together here. Sorry, say that again. I'm going to clip the wrong sides together here on each side and simply stitch down with my 10mm seam allowance. So I'm going to stitch down here, then I'm going to from the other side do it again. I'll show you that in one moment. Let's do that stitching first. So without even stopping the camera. Okay, so I've got that on my 10mm seam allowance. So I'm being careful not to catch anything from underneath. Check again, got nothing underneath catching. All the way to the bottom. There we go. And the whole idea now is that that's stitched on there. I can turn that around this way, stitch it again so it's inside out. So I'm now going to clip it down here and stitch it down there, and I'll be back to you once I've done that. So now, as you can see, we have the back on here. Here's the front. Here's our lovely bellows. Okay, and we're going to stitch on to the garment along the edge here. All I need to do is to put the bottom in, and so I've decided for that I'm going to snip away this stuff at the edge, and then I'm going to fold this up and stitch it just along there. Okay, I'm not going to try and get too clever with that because knowing me, it'll go horribly wrong. So like I said, tidy up the corners, stitch along there, and the job's a good one, as you will see in a moment. So here's my finished pocket. That's the outside. This is the inside. You may or may not, I'm not sure on the video, just be able to see the little overlap there from me just sewing it up. But yeah, everything looks good. That'll look fine on the coat. So I'll finish the other one, and then we'll be ready to put the two of them onto the coat. So here we've got the pocket flap. I've changed the stitch length to 4.5mm, so we get a better looking top stitch because I've actually fitted some top stitch thread now. So what I'm going to do is back stitch to start off, and I'm going round as close as I can get to the edge here. So I'll take the needle down and just move it round as I go. What you'll see when I take this off the machine is that what we're looking at right now is the top side, which is the wax cotton, and on the back I've got corduroy. So just being a little bit quiet there while I go around the corner. There we go. I'll just carefully snip that off and start as well. So if I don't take these off now, I'll never remember. So I don't know how well it's going to show up. On this side we've got black corduroy. On this side we've got the wax cotton, and you can see the top stitching that goes round. So let's see how we're going to put this pocket on. Here I've got my bellows pocket, and it's some pretty bad marking here, but what we've got, I've got a line here and a cross here to show, in my case, 12 centimeters in, like that, and 10 centimeters up, like that. Now what that does, if I just push the machine back a bit, if I just pop the pocket on like that, then the critical thing is that I need to leave enough space just here. So just move that a little bit so we can see. I need to leave enough space here so that when I've got my seam allowance going in and I've sewn in the inner hem, then the stitching doesn't get in the way of the pocket. So what I'm going to do, rather than sit here and blather on, I'm going to put 3 pins in here, here and here to hold it in place. I don't like pinning wax, but you got to do what you got to do, otherwise the pocket's going to move. So I'm going to pin in there, and then I'm going to sew down here, along here, and up here a little bit. I'll leave all that open so I can get my hand in, and then I'm going to sew up the top as well. So the next thing I want to do is to put the flap onto the arm. So here's my flap, that's the Velcro side, there's a piece of thread. So I've folded the arm in half like this, and this is the back that I'm looking at. So I want the flap to go roughly here. Okay, so when it tightens up, it's tightening up at the back so you can't really see it. And I'm going to go for about 3.5 centimeters here, which is where that is. So it's about 10 centimeters with mine to the top. So I'm just going to make sure I'm around that 10 centimeters like that. Make sure it looks nice and straight. And what I can do now is I can put a pin in here. So I'm going to put a pin in, having folded it back that way. Okay, I'll put a pin in, stitch it along there, fold it back, top stitch over. So that's my next task. Okay, so here we are, flaps stitched in place now. Next thing to do is simply going to be to position some Velcro underneath, pretty much up to the edge, but don't forget the seam allowance, and stitch that in place. So here we have it, there's the flap, there's my Velcro in place, and I can tighten it up, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 centimeters along there. And on we go. Next thing I'm going to do is to sew the rest of the main part of the coat together. So I'm going to be sewing to join the arms and the main body, and then I'll start making the internal part, the inner. I've made a couple of pockets here to go on the inside of the coat. So what I've got is got a zipped pocket here, and I've made like a little bag pocket for that one with just some lining material on the back and some corduroy on the front. And then this is a much simpler pocket. Go on the right hand side, yes, which is sort of phone sized, so I can slip my phone in and out of that one. Anything I want to sort of keep a little bit more secure, I can pop it in there. So I'm going to sew these onto the 2 lining pieces, and once I've done that, I'll show you what they look like. And here you can see the pockets in their correct places. So here's pattern piece P, which is the sleeve elastic casing. Now for mine, I'm not putting the elastic in, but whether you do or not makes no difference. So what I did, I folded it in half like that, but then I added a centimetre like that, and I cut a piece for each cuff. I cut a piece of the main material, and I cut a piece of the internal facing, which is going to be corduroy for me. So by adding the centimetre there and stitching down here, that gives me the same size piece as the Friday Pattern Company intended me to have. So I've got one prepared here. I'm going to stitch them both together, and I'll attach the cuff. Right then, so this one is the first stage. I've just put the 2 pieces together. So this is the same size as the Friday Pattern Company part Q. Okay, and this one, hopefully you can see, it's got the corduroy on the inside, it's got the wine coloured wax on the outside. Now before I actually fit this to the coat, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to top stitch or edge stitch with top stitch material just to hold it nicely together, so I don't get the inside sort of poking out or vice versa. So I'll be doing that all together, and then I shall just fit them to the edge of the coat. So that's the end of my shonky little video showing you how to make this thing. Let's have a look at the finished product. Here we've got the corduroy collar and the hanging loop as well. If we pull back a little bit, come down here. There are my flaps for the wrists, and you can just see inside the corduroy lining and the thermal lining for the coat as well. And finally over here, we've got the bellows pockets and the hand warmer pocket as well. So just coming back a little bit. I'm really pleased with that. I think it's going to keep me nice and warm and dry and look a little bit different.